All right, good evening. Welcome to Milpitas Unified School District Board Meeting, February 11, 2020, and it is now 7:05. I would like to call this meeting to order, and let's do roll call. Timothy?
Here.
Kush? Let the record reflect that Kush is not here today, and Michael is not here today. He's out sick. Kelly?
Here.
Chris Marwood?
Here.
And Honda, I'm here. All right. Do I have a motion to review and approve this open session agenda?
Motion to approve the open session agenda.
A second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Moving on to Scott. Do we have somebody who would like to move forward?
We have Randall here.
Hello everyone, my name is Keiko and I go to Robert Randall Elementary. Everyone please rise, remove your caps and join with me in the flag salute. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Fundamental a la bandera de los Estados Unidos de América y a la república que representa una nación bajo Dios, indivisible, con libertad y justicia para todos.
Thank you so much. Please be seated. Comments from the public. Members of the public may address the board on any subject not on tonight's agenda. However, provisions of the Brown Act, Government Code 54954.2A and .3 preclude any action. As an unagendized item, no response is required from the board or district staff, and no action can be taken. However, the board may instruct the superintendent to agendize the item for a future meeting. If you would like to address the board on any item on the agenda or one that does not appear on the agenda, please complete the green request of visitors form located near the entrance of the meeting room and hand it to the communications specialist at the beginning of the meeting. On the form, please list your name, organization, telephone number, email, home address, and the items you would like to speak to. For items not on the agenda, you will be able to speak under the comments of the public portion of the agenda. For items on the agenda, you'll be able to speak at the time of that item. When your name is called, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and limit your remarks to 2 minutes for individuals or 5 minutes for a group. The district asks for this contact information from those who wishing to speak so staff can follow up on issues brought to our attention. So thank you for your participation in the civic engagement. We're moving on to the strategic goals for MUSD. Oh, comments from the public. Mr. Joseph Weinstein?
Joseph Weinstein, 626 Hamilton Avenue, Milpitas, members of the board and staff. Today I had the unfortunate experience of having to go to court because a gentleman named George Liu and a woman named, I believe, Sherilyn Wong requested information about teachers' pay. Sherilyn Wong requested information about termination, reason for termination, etc. All of these are public record requests. My wife and I had to go to court because we were not sure whether or not our information had been released, and nobody could give us an answer. I'm requesting that the superintendent, which I believe under board policy has the right to do, implement and follow the Palo Alto policies on any time a public record request is made and acted upon, that it be put up on the website and the following information be shown. Data request, requested by, topic, the status of the public request, and any documents that are made. I really believe that the public records request is getting out of hands and it's being weaponized. I've heard rumors that it's being weaponized against the teachers, and I feel it's being weaponized against citizens. And I think, Superintendent, I really hope you take this request seriously. And if the board feels that they've got to act, would somebody please agendize it for the next meeting? It is just not right for people to be using public requests as weapons. Thank you.
Thank you. Robert Young?
All right. Okay, hold on a second. Thank you, Madam President, members of the board, superintendent, cabinet, and community. My name is Robert Young, Milpitas resident, Park North, Park Victoria Drive. I'd like to remind everyone that March 2nd through March 6th is National Say Something Week from the Sandy Hook Promise Organization. This week is a national call to action for communities and schools to speak up when noticing warning signs and threats of potential violence. Thousands of schools and youth organizations participate in this event, including Bay Area districts of Martinez Unified, Brentwood Union, San Francisco Unified, Eastside Union, and Santa Clara Unified, just to name a few. I want to thank the Milpitas High School and our middle schools for looking at the Say Something anonymous reporting system and further encourage its implementation and start to hold Say Something classes for students and staff. This is a proactive, preventative approach to school safety and mental health, which I believe is key to making MUSD a leader in our community. As always, let me know how I can help. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going down the line. Wendy, would you like to read number 14 for us?
Sure, thank you. So this is our strategic goal. Build a cultural way that engage parents, staff, and community partners in supporting student success. Improve communication systems for better outreach to parents, students, and staff. Develop educational pathways that allow students to apply their passion in learning for their future careers. Focus services and support systems to ensure that all students are engaged in their learning and are making social, emotional, and academic gains. Lastly, identify creative, student-focused strategies to accommodate enrollment growth and ensure healthy learning environments.
Thank you very much. All right, Superintendent's report. Superintendent Jordan.
Thank you. Thank you, President Lian. We have several tonight. I would like to first start with, if I could have the board come up and the cabinet. As you know, in our strategic goals, which are meant to support and propel our learners towards graduation and their future careers, and find opportunities for themselves to explore their pathways.
one pathway that is very evident, particularly amongst our high school students, is leadership. And Ms. Carrington Kenny has demonstrated great leadership as one of our leaders of the Black Student Union, along with Nella Chote. Carrington was one of only 2 young teens in Santa Clara County who was asked to speak at the 2020 Women's March in San Jose. I believe it was January 18th, the weekend of Martin Luther King Jr.'s celebration. So I would like to recognize Carrington for her work and also for the recognition that she received that day. And this is Nyla, our president of the Black Student Union.
Thank you.
And member of the District LCAP Advisory Committee. Thank you, Assistant Superintendent Rodriguez. And thank you. I would now like to recognize 2 alumni who began a leadership and service oriented around building a culture of we before they left Milpitas High School and went on to pursue college and career. And that is Ivy and Alan Pham, and they continue to give back to the district. And what they've done is they have raised funds to support a program that they've created called SAD, which stands for Smoking, Alcohol, and Drugs. And it's a program where they bring in volunteer medical personnel to talk with students about the impact of these chemicals on their bodies and ways to make wise choices. So I'd like to thank you, Ivy and Alan, for bringing this idea of yours forward and also for finding funding to support it. Where is Alan?
Alan had to stay at school today. He's at Berkeley right now, so unfortunately couldn't make it. But,
all right. Would you like to tell us a little bit about the program?
Yes, thank you so much. Actually, can I bring the poster up here? Yes.
Oh, we got it.
Thank you.
Need help?
Got it. First, I would like to thank MUSD so much for their support of this program and community educational projects like these. And also, I would like to thank Assemblymember Keston Chu too for sponsoring this program too. Actually, he sponsored some of other community educational projects like MAPEZ free K-12 tutoring, which we've done at MUSD before, like sponsoring like free snacks for students during all of the tutoring sessions. So he's always dedicated to the community, especially students. And so this sign is for SAD, which, as Superintendent Jordan introduced, stands for smoking, alcohol, and drugs. So the purpose of this is to educate and warn students about the dangers of smoking, alcohol, and other drugs. My brother Alan and I created this sign, and we wanted a kind of like a rhyming catchphrase for it. So it reads, smoking, alcohol, drugs harm your life. Don't be sad. Sad is the wrong path. And we also wanted to look like a kind of universal symbol too, because this kind of looks like the wrong way road sign outside so that it can more easily be remembered and accepted. And especially for like young kids too, sometimes they need to be told like clearly what's right and what's wrong. So that's why we put "sad is the wrong path" here. We were inspired to do this originally because previously the district had a program called DARE, which stood for Drug Abuse Resistance Education, where police officers educate students about like how they should say no to drugs. And I actually went through this myself in 5th grade as well. However, studies show that DARE wasn't effective. So my brother and Alan and I were thinking that it would be helpful for doctors to and other health personnel to educate students about the health effects of smoking, alcohol, and drugs, and more about like why they should say no. And we also thought it would be good to have a sign on campus as a kind of permanent reminder for students whenever they see it to look at it and remember, the health effects. This is a poster that I printed temporarily, and I actually ordered a banner too, a nicer one that'll arrive sometime next week. But MUSD is going to make like actual metal signs soon. So Alan and I have invited like doctors and other health personnel to speak to some of our students at some of our student organizations before, such as MacEasy, and it had lots of positive responses. And we recently also invited them to speak to schools during the school year as well. Like Randall School, Ms. Contreras kindly allowed a couple doctors to speak to students at their Pride Assembly recently, and it was really successful. And several other schools in MUSD also agreed to have the metal signs on campus and to have doctors speak to students as well. So we're happy that this is going to benefit students because it's a really important topic. And our vision is that it can help students not only locally in Milpitas, but also in other schools in other areas as well. And of course, to make this effective, we really welcome any feedback at all about like the sign or the program or anything at all. And once again, I would like to thank MC so much for their kind recognition and their support of this. And thank you guys on the recognition for your sponsorship.
Could we have Mr. and Mrs. Pham come up?
Oh,
Mr. and Mrs. Pham, would you like to join us?
Stand by your daughter. She's yours. How about Dad? No.
Perfect.
Oh, look this way. There you go. Good, got it.
Daisy, did you want one? Daisy, did you get one? Did you get yours?
Thank you.
Okay, don't go away. And we would also like to recognize Assemblymember Kansan Chu. And the board created this resolution nominating you to the California School Boards Association for the Outstanding Legislator Award, which we will do for next fall. We wanted to give you this resolution that we took in September.
Thank you.
As well as thank you for your contribution to the SAD program.
All right, great. Thank you very much.
And since you're up here, I'd also like to say thank you for, I'd also like to thank you, Assemblymember, for just today sharing with us that you would contribute to the transportation costs for our championship football team to the state assembly where they will be recognized. Thank you.
The second time.
Yes, the second time.
Okay, everybody look this way. 1, 2, 3. Okay, get it quick, guys.
Perfect.
One more.
We would like to invite
Daisy?
Daisy, come on. Mrs.
Oh, yeah. You're helping with one.
Right here.
This is impressive. Yeah.
Perfect. Let me get one more. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. It's really an honor to receive this recognition from this distinguished body. You know, I really commend you on your effort and your dedication for educating our students. You know, I have experience with the third graders from Kirtner Elementary School all the way to many of the students from the Milpitas High School. You know, they really impressed me with what they have been taught in this civil activity leadership and organizing skill. I work with fan family, because I say fan family because their parents are always there on every one of their events. You know, when Ellen was just a middle school kids, and they started the Math Easy program. And last time I checked, in the last 6 years, you have coached more than 3,000 students. Is that right?
Yeah, it's over 6,600 students and tutors, and we also have in other locations and libraries in San Jose as well.
6,000 students. So there was really a commendable effort. And I want to thank all the school board members and current and the past for your dedication of committed to the education of our students, as well as the superintendent, the staff, the principals and the teachers. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, all right.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Did a really good job up there.
We have another community organization who each year contributes a donation to our special education program. And they do this through the support of our high school student volunteers, as well as community members and also business members. And that is our Milpitas Knights of Columbus. So I would like to invite Mr. Juan Ali Santosa up. And I understand you have a large check for us.
Yeah, so can I give a speech first? Okay.
You might want to stand
Yes, yes, here, okay. All right, yeah. Good evening. So thank you for giving us the opportunity to be here tonight. So my name is Juan Ali Santosa, Grand Knight, and chairman of the special fundraising program for people with intellectual disability. We are supporting Milpitas High School Special Ed program. The Knights of Columbus 4 principle is charity, unity, fraternity, and patriotism. Okay. We didn't do this alone. This is a teamwork. Okay, because we involve many of our officers, members, church community, and Ocean Supermarket, and let's not forget the volunteers and donors. This is a great teamwork. Okay, we did a lot of things. This is only a small fraction of what we do year after year. Okay, we also do wheelchair for veteran fundraising programs, holiday food drive for both Thanksgiving and Christmas, and even last year we also provide a scholarship to Calaveras Hills students. So with that, let me invite officers of the Knights of Columbus, Frank, and also Kai. Anybody else from Knights of Columbus? Okay, so we always work together. Frank is the community director. Kai is our recorder, Council 8747, and Ocean Supermarket, Mint. Can you please join us? Okay. And this is not the only things. We also working on a grant. We just learned that there is a grant up to $10,000 available. So our work doesn't stop here. So I'm going to pass the document to Cheryl Jordan. and we need to work together as a team. We do have deadline, okay? So let me present the check, yes, to the board president. So here's the check, $6,509.43. And one more thing. This is a resolutions for Ocean Supermarket. Resolution of gratitude and appreciation to Ocean Supermarket Milpitas for 15 years of strong and consistent support to the Night of Columbus annual fundraising for people with intellectual disabilities. So I'm going to present this to Mint, who's representing Ocean Supermarket. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And this is a prime example of our strategic goal number 1, a culture of we. Thank you.
More. Front page of the beat.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all.
Thank you. Let's continue working together. Let's. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's good to see you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. The next thing on my agenda, or on my superintendent's report, that I'd like to inform the board and community about is continuous learning and short-term independent studies. And we all are aware, I'm sure, of the coronavirus and the uncertainty that elicits a sense of anxiety amongst people. And for those of you who haven't seen our social media posts with updates, please visit the front page of our website. And as the Santa Clara County Public Health has required that our students and employees who have recently traveled to China are to be self-quarantined for 14 days, we want to ensure that students have continuous learning. And so we've implemented our short-term independent studies program for those students. And the past few days, Chim Song and Karen Muska, who are 2 of our educators and also director of tech services, they've created a resource page for our teachers, which Assistant Superintendent Rodriguez will be sending out to principals and teachers with things they might consider in addition to or instead of the traditional paper and pencil type of homework. So I'm very pleased to share with you that staff is trying to find innovative ways to make things as smooth and continuous for our students and families as possible.
Great, thank you, Superintendent Jordan. We are moving on to item 16. It is also yours, Superintendent's report.
Thank you. I'm going to start with our co-principals, Olivia Contreras and Kristen Prillo, who lead Randall School. And they're going to share with their team which strategic goal it is that they're talking about tonight, as well as examples of what they've done to achieve that. And of course, also, we're very anxious to hear about your attendance data and suspension data.
We are inviting all of our Randall community, parents, students, and staff, because together we are one. nos paramos algunos acá.
And I'd like to remind, as they're getting ready, for those who don't know, Randall is our currently bilingual school, Spanish, English. And in a few years, we will add a third language, and it will be our multilingual school.
All right, I get to start. Good evening. I'm going to just talk quickly about suspension and attendance data for you. Currently, this year for suspension, we have had 3 single days with 3 single students. Compared to last year, we had 0 at this point. For attendance, for this current month that just passed, we are at 94.3% attendance overall. Compared to the month prior, we were at 93.9%. So we've seen a percent increase. We have started a weekly recognition of our students at our school-wide assembly on Monday mornings for those who have improved attendance. So that single percent, our goal is to see at least 1% per month until we hit 100%. We made some changes to our morning routine that seem to have been successful in getting our students in and learning by 8 a.m. So we think that contributes to it. You're going to hear quite a bit of the other programs we have in place that is helping support the decrease in discipline incidents, both significant, major, and minors as we call them, and our increase in attendance, even in light of some recent tragedies to some of our families. So I'm going to turn over to Ms. Contreras.
Thank you, Ms. Carlo. Thank you, Board of Education and Superintendent Executive Captain, for inviting us to share what all the highlights that are going on at Randall Elementary School. Some of the characteristics that we would like all of our Randall graduates to portray are global citizenship, critical thinking, respect, perseverance, empathy, and adaptability. Tonight, we would like to communicate some ways in which we hope to achieve this. Maestra Santa Cruz.
Thank you. So one of the goals for Randall Elementary is to have our children learn to read as early in life as they can, as they are going to be going to lead others too. So our goal is have a guided reading strategy in the classrooms, which is grouping kids and students in a way that they can be labeled, as continuing learning, and they can be placed in groups of either 2, as many as little as 2, or as many as 6, and they are learning close to the teacher while the other students are being instructed to and led to do some work on their own independently, learning on the same strategies. And the teacher guides these students in their specific needs, and they try to hit what they think is best for the student. And as the students are growing in levels, they are either read once a week, twice a week, or three times a week. It depends on their needs. So as long as the students are seeing the teacher closely as a small group, they attempt to get the goal sooner than being in the whole classroom. That's guided reading for. The inclusion that we also have in our school is the attempt to have all the students in spite of their abilities to be included in the classroom, because they are going to feel less segregated, and that's the best way of learning, being included in the classroom. We are all welcoming to all the students in spite of their needs. And now we are going to ask Ms. Claudia to talk about the positive behavior system of support to the IS.
Good evening. Based on behavior office referrals, we have found that we needed additional support during recesses. So in turn, we sought out little heroes to help us provide more engaging and interactive play outdoors and in general. Consequently, we noticed a significant decrease in the misbehavior. So here I am going to introduce Coach Kyle to speak a little bit about how he accomplished that great achievement.
Sure. And my name is Kyle Floyd. I work for Little Heroes. If you're not familiar, which many people aren't, when I tell people what I do, they say, you're kind of a PE coach. You're kind of a recess coach. Kind of. While we do endeavor to structuralize and make very intentional the recess yard, and while I do conduct bi-weekly class game times where I'm able to illustrate a leadership trait that can be leveraged during a recess game. We also give the students the opportunity to empower themselves. I do tell people that I consider myself to work for a youth empowerment organization, and it's the most important thing that I do. I asked a student last week, before I knew I would be speaking here, I said, what's your favorite part of Little Heroes? I like to get feedback from the students. And she said, well, before Little Heroes was here, it was kind of chaos. And after that, she went on to say that she feels like being a playground hero, which is the junior coach program that we employ, being a playground hero enabled her to gain confidence in herself by helping others. And I think it's true that character is developed in the classroom, but revealed on the recess yard. And as much as it's revealed to me and to the staff, I think it also reveals itself to the students, and they find out what they are capable of. And I think it's had a great effect at Randall. We have a great culture on the recess yard. And while I'm able to do that, and we have great support from our teachers, I don't think that any of this is possible without our parents. And so here to talk about our parent engagement with Los Dichos is Anna.
Buenas noches. Esta vez tenemos a una nueva mamá que nos ha apoyado demasiado y creo que le toca el turno a ella, que no es solamente en español. Y que más que porque hacemos todo nuestro trabajo, que es uno de nuestros hijos.
Hi, good evening. My name is Jeannie Young. I'm one of the parent volunteers in the Los Dichos program. I have a kindergartner and a second grader in the dual immersion program. And for those in the back who don't know what the Los Dichos program is, it allows the Spanish-speaking parents and guardians to be involved in their school by volunteering within the classroom of learning for students to learn about Latino culture, morals, and conflict resolution based on the books that we, parent volunteers, read both in English and in Spanish. And since my Spanish isn't that great, I read the English component. And so what I do is we meet once a month. The core group meets once a month. The Spanish-speaking folks, Spanish-speaking volunteers to cut up different types of art projects that be ready for the students. And so we go in for about 45 minutes once a month to read a book. And you can see some of the samples on the book to the right side of the wall, to your right side of the wall. And so we go in and read the book both in Spanish and English and do a small art project with the students. And so some of the books are about Cecilia Cruz, Cesar Chavez, things like how to fill up your bucket with different ways to be kind to individuals. And so, what I do is I read the English component and then I walk around and help the students. And so here I would leave it to the student to read her part.
Hi, my name is Diana, and I really love the school, Randall Elementary, and we have a lot of good programs.
Ahora tenemos a mi Santa Cruz.
Thank you. Another thing that we are doing at Randall is we are hosting Love for Literacy, which is a program where we try to put parent engagement in progress. So what we offer is parents coming with their children to this time once a week. And they learn strategies, they learn to be in the classroom with the kids for just an exposure to how it is like to teach their kids, because they are the first and most important teacher for the children. So with our program, we are trying to engage the families, give them support academically also, because they get to learn with us and the children how to better guide them in their academic encounter. And also we offer guidance for the children. We try to accommodate our program to focus on their next step in life. I'm doing actually kinder students that are going to first grade. And what they do is they learn a little bit about what their next year is going to be like. And they are exposed to all of the curriculum in a very small way. So we encourage parents to come and learn with their kids, and we give them strategies, we give them emotional support, and we also offer academic support. Thank you. So the next is, person that's going to be talking is the PTA president, Mr. Dominguez.
Good afternoon, board, superintendent, and attendees. My name is Jose Dominguez. My son Sebastian. This is actually my first year as PTA president, and I am very. When I took the position, luckily I had people before me that set me up already. Edwin DeGaulo, who was the president before, already set into place, and then the community at Randall, reminded me about the schools where I grew up. So I really want to be more involved and do more. Our PTA is about 30 members. It's not a, but you're hearing a lot of parents talk here. You would think it might be a bigger number, but though it's as paid members, 30 members, but we do feel like we have a lot of parent involvement, and we try to strive for that. And some of the things we've been doing is for the kids, it's not just that what they learn in the classroom, but we also feel that experiences that maybe for a lot of them, as you know, it's a Title I school where we have a lot of low-income families. A lot of times for them to experience things are not, it's difficult for them. So we try to bring things to the school, because we feel at the school, kids can be at a more level playing field per se. So one thing we did, like on the first day of school, I had kind of now connections with the San Jose's Earthquakes, the professional team here in San Jose, and they came over, brought some, like their inflatable, the kids were kicking it, they were winning prizes, and just involving them with that. Also like to involve the community. We had police officers, you guys up on social media, you guys might have seen that we did have a police officer who came and volunteered during our Harvest Festival. We had a trunk or treat, and she came and she had a police car there, and the kids were able to interact with her and get in the squad and the island. So we invited her back, and our one of our first grade classes, Ms. Arevalos, class, presented, said a thank you for them. She came in and it was a fun little interaction with the kids and the police officers. So we do that. Other things, obviously, we always try to bring in other funds and show pride at the same time. So one thing is this year, these are our new shirts. So you can see Round Elementary, and it says, where legends are made, donde se hacen leyendas. And, and we also have our water bottles. So we obviously want to also promote hydration at the same time for them to, show their pride. So we're doing a lot. The biggest thing we're next we want to do is we want to have parents and the school teachers work together in unison for our kids. As together, it will work a lot better. And speaking of the kids, so the next part is going to be about the kids. So student engagement, and who's better to talk about the kids than the kids themselves? So let's have our superstars talk about some of the things that's going on. And first off, we have Keiko with Student Council.
Hello everyone, my name is Keiko and I'm going to talk about Student Council. For Student Council, we have grants where we fundraise money for our library. We also plan dress-up days and spread school cheer. Hola, mi nombre es Keiko y voy a hablar de Student Council. En nuestro club ahorramos fondos para nuestra biblioteca. También decidimos qué día de festivos vamos a hacer. Ahora les voy a presentar Xavier. Hi, my name is Xavier Song and I am 8 years old. In our program, we are learning and preparing to be bilingual and illiterate. Also, we hope to see you at our multicultural festival on Friday, May 9th. We will have lots of yummy foods and performances. Hola, me llamo Javier Son y yo soy 8 años. En nuestro programa de doble inmersión estamos aprendiendo 2 idiomas para ser bilingües en hablar, leer y escribir. También esperamos verlos en nuestro festival multicultural el viernes 9 de mayo. Tendremos mucha comida y presentaciones de varias culturas. Ahora les voy a presentar Josiah.
Hi, my name is Josiah and I'm in 3rd grade. This year we will be having the Lion King musical. Our cast is made up of 3rd to 6th graders and we were working hard for the show. Our shows will be on Saturday, May 9th at 3:30 p.m. and 6:30 p.m. Hola, me llamo Josiah. Este año tendremos nuestro musical del Rey León. Nuestro programa es compuesto de niños del 3er grado al 6º. Nuestro musical sería el sábado mayo 9 a las 3:30 p.m. y 6:30 p.m. Gracias.
Thank you so much, Superintendent, Board of Education, and community. Last announcement, thanks to the support of our community, we will have our construction ribbon cutting event on June 5th, I keep doing that, June 5th at 4 p.m. Please join us there. We're going to have a new
drop-off and pickup area and parking lot, a new TK classroom, a new office, and in 2 years, they promise us a multi-use room so that we hope that former students like Ivy and former students by the name of Ashley, who's now teaching our folklorico, she attends Milpitas High School, has a new school to come back to in 2 years. So we are super excited that even before they leave us, they will be attending and performing in a new multi-use room. So June 5th, 4 p.m., come dig up some dirt, get this party started.
We just got this. Our superstars. We are superstars. Thank you.
All right, next I have each of my cabinet members. And if I could ask you just one high point. Let's go with, we'll start with you first, Assistant Superintendent Brunson.
That never happens. This is a whole new world. So with one announcement, good evening, families. Let's start, I only have one, I should have 5 here. I know.
My time's up.
I have a wonderful time serving this community. I'll just say that we're working on staffing projections right now for the 2021 school year. And things are looking really bright for us, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Assistant Superintendent Rodriguez.
Thank you, Superintendent Jordan. Well, the greatest highlight that I have to say is thank you for giving me the opportunity to join the Kerner and the Rose team at Disneyland last night. I flew in yesterday morning and came back this morning, and we had a blast. It was amazing recognizing the teams for their hard work. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity that I will never forget. Thank you.
But you gotta tell everybody why it was a once in a lifetime opportunity and what they were celebrating.
It was a once in a lifetime opportunity. They were celebrating being selected as California Distinguished Schools.
And it's all of the California Distinguished
All of the
Schools
California
come to their, that's where the state does the recognition. That's correct. Thank you. Thank you for going.
I'm very happy to share that the Student Nutrition Department just received a $4,000 equipment assistance grant from the state. And we applied this earlier this year. And this small grant will help us to replace the aged oven at the Cow Hill site.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Scott, if you can pull up the board group agreements for reference, and then we're gonna move on to reports. Superintendent Jordan. General cut. The fund cut, Scott.
Can you make it so we can see the bottom? Thank you. Yeah, you might have to minimize it. Not that much. Okay. There you go. Well, we'll just.
We'll scroll down.
Yeah, we'll scroll down. Thank you. So what I'm presenting to the board tonight are options that came about through multiple stakeholders input meetings with our team members, as well as thought exchange and discussions with all of our association leaders. And so what I have here for the board to discuss tonight and to ask questions is to share with you how we as a team have come up with these recommendations that I present to you for achieving cost management of savings of $1.6 million. And I'm not asking the board to take any action tonight, just to discuss and then bring back March 10th based on the discussion items for action. So if you look at I start with the greatest funding support, and that is about $414,000 through reorganization of the district office. And reorganization means scaling back on some of the personnel, particularly in management positions, and reorganizing our departments, in particular learning and development. And then $245,000 by redirecting savings of funding of one assistant principal position so that the school site is responsible for it, and reassigning a teacher on special assignment to the classroom. $233,000 is idea of sharing night custodians at a couple of our sites, although we also recently have a vacancy at our Milpitas High School, so potentially looking at that as something that would contribute to this so that we could maintain full night custodians at our two elementary schools that have about 650 kids. and then reducing the Metro Ed student allocation by 50%. So that would mean that instead of sending 58 students to Metro Ed, we would only have 29, and that's a savings of $179,000. Reduce site budget allocations by 15% district-wide. So instead of having the funding that we distribute from the general fund out to the school sites, what we had planned originally, we would instead cut back on that 15%. So that would help us to achieve savings in the general fund. And then elementary sites would pay an additional 10% towards the cost of a full-time assistant principal, so that we would continue to maintain full-time assistant principals at elementary sites, which is something that's unique to Milpitas Unified. And then we have a solar tech position, and rather than having that funding coming out of the general fund, it could be instead paid for through the building fund, which is to support upkeep and maintenance of buildings. And then 61,000, rather than having the Illuminate software, which only a smaller percentage of our teachers are actually using than was originally thought, we would cut that. However, if the school sites wanted to pick it up, they would be welcome to do that. And then 60,000 middle schools realizing savings by funding 25% of the counselor positions. How are they going to do all of this? Well, as we looked through expenditures on external resources, rather than putting the money outside, we would keep the money inside to tap our own expertise and also to pay for our own team instead of having external people to rely on for different aspects such as professional development.
Right, great. We have Michelle Kessinger.
Good evening, Board, President Holm. I just wanted to say I appreciate the fact that there was a collaborative effort with all stakeholders in a lot of this decision-making here. This isn't my first rodeo when we've had to do cuts, nor is it my second, as Diane and I have been through this many, many times. I would like to say, though, cutting night custodians or sharing a custodian is a hardship, not only for the site, but also for the people who have to pick up the slack when that happens during the day. I would expect my student to be able to go to a clean school, a safe school, and dividing that work. We've done it before and it was a real hardship. That's why we brought it back when we were able to. I would ask the board to bring this back after looking at some other areas that I feel that we can really look at. That would be not cutting as close to the classroom or the school sites. So that would be my ask for you before we decide on those night custodians. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Vice President Mobley, let's open this to discuss.
I'm curious, what is the district office reorganization? Is that?
So in part, it would be cutting back some of the positions that we created in the last 6 years or so. Not filling a current vacancy that we have, which is a program manager, looking at reducing a higher level position, potentially a coordinator or a director, and also looking at clerical support and potentially cutting back there and reorganizing priorities of the work amongst the others.
I do have a question though. Reduce Metro Ed students, the allocation by 50%. You said it is going to be 29 students sent into Metro Ed. Doesn't that mean that you're taking away the pathway for the students who need it?
Yes, for those 29 students who may have been interested in pathways at Metro Ed, they wouldn't have that as an option, but there are other pathways that we have. We have our biotech, we have our travel and tourism, we have our digital business academy, we have Project Lead the Way, we have robotics. And as we continue to look at how we're going to establish the programming for our future second high school campus, that would be a prime opportunity for us to bring in some pathways through partnerships with businesses, particularly around advanced manufacturing. Fire science is something that we have up the hill as a possibility with Spring Valley. And in looking at this recommendation, $179,000 for 29 students is something to consider, when that $179,000 might instead be used to impact 300 high school students or potentially 3,000 elementary school students, depending on where the money went instead.
For those who don't know, can you explain about the elementary site identified saving to fund additional 10% of AP positions?
Yes, so the elementary sites, instead of using that money that they have allocated to their school site for some things such as professional development, outside consultants like instructional coaches, or I believe some of them have other programs that they bring in around art, that instead of some of those, they might need to cut those so that they would have 10%. That money to pay for the 10% of the assistant principals, and that would be the money that would relieve from the general fund.
So currently, these school sites pay
20%.
Oh, 20%.
20%.
Or
Yes, so some of them draw it from their sub, which would be the supplemental funds. And 2 years ago, when we had to go through cost management, and the principals at that time decided that they would like to pay, instead of having their assistant principals reduced to shared model, they would like to pay the 20% to ensure that the general fund wasn't impacted. And in using the supplemental funds, that meant that they needed to focus on family and student engagement. So what I've asked them to do is, since they want to maintain them as full-time, and increase their contribution from the school site by 10%, so that would be 30% total. And also I told them that we need to have uniform data collection on the family and student engagement to have demonstrated evidence that having a full-time assistant principal is the right direction, because I did mention that it is unique to Milpitas Unified.
And we can bring this back.
Yes, we'll bring it back in March. And I'd like to remind the board in particular, because some community members may be unaware of how public school funding works, and budgeting, I should say. As we look at our budgets, all school districts need to do a 3-year budget. So when you look out to year 3, so the current year is year 1, and then next year is year 2, and the third year is year 3. We want to make sure that year 3 continues to stay solvent, so that as we have already demonstrated, we maintain our high ratings from Standards & Poor's and Moody's, as well as a positive certified evaluation from the Santa Clara County Office of Ed, which certifies our budget each year. So the reason it's cost management is because it's the way to be fiscally responsible, so that we don't find ourselves in the same situation as some of our neighboring school districts that are making deep cuts, some as high as $10 million.
Thank you.
One of the things that I noticed on the general fund cost management recommendations is that it looks like, we're going to, look to maintain the student ratio in the classrooms.
Yes.
So there's an emphasis here on making sure that the students are prioritized by making sure our classroom ratio remains where it is.
Right.
That's what I see that you can't see that here, but that's what it looks like. And so with that thought, there's a component on that aligns with safety and security. And so can you talk to me a little bit about the schedule for the custodians as far as what is the day shift and what is the night shift?
Ms. Zhang, can you speak to that?
Well, we're thinking basically to look at the night shift. So back then, prior to 2015-16 school year, the district did the model is for the elementary schools. We're only talking about elementary schools. The elementary school night custodians, we look at the site coverage. And for the school side that has a student less than 600 students back then. And then we basically geographically they're close enough, and then we'll share a night custodian. So that was basically the model we did before. And then in 15-16 school year, the school district started to receive a lot more money from the state. And we're thinking, and also at a point, we're thinking, okay, that if we have more money, we would like to invest on our employee and to our program. So one of the area we look at it is, we bring back some elementary assistant principals, and also we look at night custodians, because if we can do that financially, we would rather to do that. But when the time comes, it's a little bit tough now, and we need to trim back a little bit. It's still doable. So that was the idea behind it. And also the other thing I wanted to share with the board is we will try to make the impact to our personnel to the minimum level, which means if we have an attrition, like for example, if we have a vacancy, so maybe we're not going to fill in the vacancy. So that way, if we eliminate the position, it won't really have an impact to a person. That's what we're trying to do as a district.
So the shifts are, the day shift for the custodians are
full time.
7 to
roughly to 2:30.
7 to
It
2:30.
depends. Yeah, I won't have the detailed schedule of each shift, but roughly that is kind of the schedule for the daytime. So in the morning, every school, elementary school has a full-time custodian. And also we're thinking for night, if some school side have event, and then what we're going to do is we're going to probably ask the vendor who is going to rent our facility to cover for the custodian cost, and we'll bring some extra help just to cover for the event. So that way we can alleviate.
So then the custodians would have overtime opportunity.
Yes, definitely. Yes. Yeah.
So there are potentially revenue opportunities, because you're talking about, when we look at this number of 233,000, what we're actually saying is that we're looking to create a cost savings of close to $750,000 over the 3-year period.
Right. Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. And right now, we have custodians that are 7 to 3 full-time. That's full-time during the day.
Yep, and then we have nighttime full-time.
Right.
And then we have nighttime full-time, different group, but then they will be distributed. Because today we have custodians at each of the schools, or?
Except for Matos, they don't have a night custodian right now. There's a vacancy.
Yeah. But Matos is a small school right now. Their enrollment is 168 students.
Right. And so you're talking about the schools that have more than 600 students.
Right now, like for example, for Pomeroy, Senate, and Gardner, those 3 schools, they're still going to keep their full-time night custodians because their school size is almost 700. I mean, Kerner is 690 some students. So for those 3 school sites, they will keep their full-time night custodians. Or the other schools, the other 6 schools, elementary schools, we're thinking we can combine, we can have them to share the night shift.
And then with the vacancy that is currently open at Milpitas High School for a night custodian, which I found out about yesterday, I want us to look to see about, instead of the 2 schools with the next largest populations, which would be Zanker and Spangler, instead of having them share, have them maintain their night custodians, and then just not fill the vacancy at Milpitas High School, and have those custodians talk about what work duties they would no longer do in order to take up the slack for one less night custodian there.
So is there a way, as we look at some of these cost saving measures, kind of look at, I see, as I kind of look at this balance and just knowing the, I always say that when I go to a school site, the first folks that I look for, I look at the office administrator, I look for the custodian. And there are 2 different times to look for them. That's in the morning and during the day, and then in the evening time, because those are the folks that know where everything is and how to keep those sites safe in a number of different ways for preparation for the next day. So I appreciate the work that's done here. I want to think about it a little bit, and I'm going to see if I can work possibly with community partners, or even having some additional discussions around seeing if we can maintain the level of safety that we have for our kids during the day, as well as the protection that we have on the campuses, because anytime there's something that's going on or in those areas, we know Brian has someone to call. We always have someone in those areas for a certain amount of time. And when you talk about the night custodians, what is their start time? What is their typical end time? Is that 5 o'clock to 2 o'clock, or?
Their start time is typically at the end of the school day.
Yeah.
So I just want to make it clear that during the school day, while students are in session, their safety is not in jeopardy.
I'm thinking about so after school, right? Because there's a number of folks that are on campus. There are teachers that are still on campus. There are after school programs. There are a number of things that are going on. So I understand the goal, and I know that we work hard on the safety piece. I just look at, the things that, as I pointed out initially, I was like, okay, we're going to maintain our classroom to student ratio, which is priority. And now I'm looking at, and I appreciate everything else, I'm looking through each of the lenses, okay, where might there potentially be a safety issue that we need to think about a little bit deeper? And so the only thing that I see at this point, which is great, because when we've done this in the years past, we've kind of gone around this several times for 3 or 4 months. So to be at this list already, I know that you guys have worked hard on it. I just want to think about that one just a little bit more. So I appreciate that.
Okay. I want to ask Timothy if you have any comments or any questions on this item.
I don't really know anything about funding.
All right, thank you, Timothy. We do have Suzette Brahmajan.
Suzette Brahmajan, Vice President, CSEA. Over the years that I have been involved with our CSEA organization, and since 2005, since I've been an employee, I've always heard that our staff is our most valued resource and our children are to be treasured. So it pains me to see any heads rolling for budget cuts. And so it just doesn't add up to me. We've been working very lean for quite some time. It's not, or at least my job anyway, I can't walk away from my job at the end of the day and say I've done everything that was on my desk, ever. And so if we end up reducing headcount and trying to distribute, and even after evaluating what is essential and necessary, a lot of what is handled in the district office are mandated items by the federal, by the state reporting. If they're not done, the district doesn't get the money that we do get. So I'd like to close by saying, I never read from this thing, but I did. Anyways, because I do feel so strongly about trying to find a way to save the money without cutting bodies from our staff. Employees stay when they're paid well, when they're mentored, challenged, promoted, involved, appreciated, valued, empowered, and trusted. And we've worked really hard in this district, especially since we started the LMI, trying to work collaboratively. And so I would hope that we continue that and continue the discussions that we have had, and see if we can find a way without reducing staff. Thank you.
Thank you.
Suzette, thank you for that reminder about the mandatory requirements at the district office. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
We are going to bring this back in this one. We are now moving on to the action items. Item 19A, approve the resolution 2020-25, recognizing and honoring February as African American History Month. Superintendent German.
I'm very excited to have Nyla Chote and Carrington Kinney come to read this resolution. And as I know the board knows, but I just want the community to know as well, the past few months when we've had resolutions that pertain to celebrations such as African American History Month or recognizing, as we did last board meeting, Fred Kawamatsu, that we have, Scott here has gone to our staff and our students to ask them to work with us on their resolutions to make sure they're personalized for Milpitas, and then ask them to read it. So both Nyla and Carrington had a hand in helping to write this resolution.
Hello.
They're here to read it for us.
Okay, so first I want to say thank you to everyone for listening to this. And so first we'll be reading and recognizing and honoring February as National African American History Month.
Is your mic on?
Okay. Hello. Okay. Whereas the origin of National African American History Month, or Black History Month, began in 1915 when historian and author Carter G. Woodson founded the Association for the Study of African American Life and History, and initiated the first African American History Week in February 1926. And
whereas the month of February celebrates the contributions of African Americans that have made to American history and their struggles for freedom and equality, and it deepens our understanding of our nation's history.
And whereas Black History Month is synonymous with the contributions of prominent African American figures, such as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Harriet Tubman, Rosa Parks, Muhammad Ali, Jackie Robinson, Langston Hughes, Maya Angelou, George Washington Carver, Mary Jackson, Kobe Bryant, and Barack Obama. And
whereas Black history offers time to learn the profound impact of African Americans throughout history, including self-made millionaire Madam C.J. Walker, astronaut Mae C. Jemison, open heart surgeon Daniel Hale Williams, inventor Gary Morgan, and media mogul Oprah Winfrey, and father of Black history, Carter G. Woodson, who lobbied to establish Black History Month as a nationwide celebration.
And whereas our students of African ancestry have a history that has impacted global development and is much greater than what is typically learned in U.S. history.
Whereas even after the 13th Amendment abolished slavery in 1965 and the 14th Amendment granting citizenship and equal rights to African American slaves in 1968, African Americans continue to overcome racism and discrimination to this day.
And whereas,
Sorry, ladies, what are those dates again?
The years.
What are those years?
after the 13th Amendment abolishing slavery in 1865.
1865.
Yes.
Right. You said 19 on both. I was like, well, 1865. Okay.
Yes. And whereas the formation of the National Association for the Advancement of Black People in 1909, the Harlem Renaissance in the 1920s, the Civil Rights Movement of the 1940s to 1960s, Brown versus the Board of Education in 1954, Rosa Parks and the Montgomery bus boycott in 1955, the Little Rock Nine and the Civil Rights Act both in 1957, and the March on Washington in 1963, were all events, among many others, in U.S. history where African Americans played a central role.
And whereas in 1956, right here in Milpitas, California Sunny Hills became the first planned racially integrated community in the United States.
And whereas in 1975, President Ford issued the first message on the observance of Black History Week, expanded by ASALH to Black History Month in 1976, furthered by Congress passing a law in 1986 designating February as National Black Afro-American History Month.
And now, therefore, be it resolved that Milpitas Unified School District hereby proclaims the month of February 2020 as National African American History Month and encourages all educators and commemorate this occasion with appropriate ceremonies and activities, also programs.
Passed and adopted by the Milpitas Unified School District Board of Education at a meeting held on February 11, 2020 by the following vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the best resolution I've ever heard, written by students that we've ever done at this board meeting.
And I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. It's approved. Thank you so much. It was beautiful.
You can tell us who did that for you later.
They contributed, they actually wrote.
No, I just want them to take extra credit. I want them to stand up and say, yeah, no, we did it, right? Instead of just gonna.
Carrie's gonna stand up, tell him you wrote it.
That was awesome. Thank you.
Is this yours? Yes, okay. Item 19B, discuss, and this is to take action on the resolution 2020-24 in support of Proposition 13, Public Preschool K-12 and College Health and Safety Law Act of 2020. Assembly Bill 48.
The California School Boards Association has requested school boards take a look at this resolution and discuss it, and has asked the school boards of each district to approve the resolution. And as the secretary of the school board, bringing it forward for the school board to discuss. At the last board meeting, the board asked for more information about it, particularly because Proposition 13, as we know from the 1970s, gets confused with this one, because this one has the same numbering as Proposition 13, but it is actually unrelated to that and is about Assembly Bill 48. So the 4 links there provide additional information. And I would point to the Ballotpedia, which has a number of items on it that demonstrate who is in support or is against it, so that the board has balanced information as you have your discussion.
All right, I'll open this up for discussion. Timothy, you can join us in this discussion as well, okay?
You want to bring up the resolution?
The resolution.
Are there any comments from the public?
I don't have any comments from the public. Nineteen B. No.
Good evening, board members and executive cabinet. When we talk about,
State your
my name is Lindell, 943 Gums Lane, Milpitas. Thank you for the time here. More than anything, when I look at Proposition 13, I think about preschool and how much of an expense our families have to pay for early education. Here in Milpitas, we have our CDC sites, but we only have 2 locations and only a certain amount of room for those students and families to participate in. And so a lot of times we have to search and find Montessori schools or private preschools to put our children into the education system, when we know that to get the best start in a public education system, they have to learn how to be a parent and how to be a student in the public education system, where they have to drop off the kids on time and so forth. So when I look at Proposition 13 and the fact that they are asking for more of a public preschool, I think it is a situation that we should consider from that standpoint. Thank you.
Thank you. Lincoln.
Good evening, board members. I wanted to get some feedback.
Can you state your name and address for the record?
Oh, sure. My name is Lin Kong. My address is 1394 Albert Drive, Milpitas. I wanted to provide some input because I know there is one element in Prop 13 that includes elimination of developer fees for multifamily projects that are near transit. If, in a way to spur develop housing stock as part of this proposition for school bond. So it is a little bit of a diversion from what we know that the benefits from this bond is going to really help fund a lot of education facilities. But at the same time, there is an element in there that makes me concerned that here in Milpitas, a lot of the new housing that's going to be built may not be required to pay a fee going forward. So can I request for the board and for the board and the administration to look into it to make sure that we here in Milpitas are not negatively affected if that element within Prop 13 actually gets approved, that it doesn't impact us, because Milpitas has a lot of multifamily near transit. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anything to discuss? Do we have any comments from our board members here?
Well, I've been researching for the last week. I read it. I made phone calls. It's still unclear to me. I even made a list, for pros and cons. And again, it's still unclear to me. So for me, I would motion that we don't take any action on this.
There's, some of the research out there says a couple different things. Talks about Proposition 13 is a $15 billion state bond measure to fund facilities, projects at public schools, community colleges, and universities. A yes vote, if it actually, if it comes down to a vote, a yes vote will allow the state to sell $9 billion to K-12 schools, and $6 billion will be split among community colleges, Cal State University, and University of California schools. Funds will be prioritized to schools with mold, asbestos, and lead in their drinking water. There's also other information, if you look at calmatters.org, that provides additional information. So that talks about, that's one position. I just touched on a couple of those pieces. It talks about why is it on the ballot? The arguments in favor. One of the main selling points by advocates of the measure, including the governor, is that this bond measure is structured differently than previous state bonds, focusing more on school modernization rather than new construction. Proposition 13, which is really focused on AB 48, says it will prioritize health and safety issues, again, such as mold and asbestos, and puts to an end the first come, first served application process that critics say favor the richer or the bigger districts at the expense of their needier ones. Scroll down a little bit more, please. Scroll up. Look at the polling.
The polling,
Right.
the graph.
Yeah, the graph. A little bit bigger. So the thing that we're wrestling with, it looks like everybody else is wrestling with as well, in terms of what they believe that it needs to pass and where it's surveying at. And I think there are a number of different reasons for that. If you could bring up, you can bring up the sccassessor.org website on understanding Proposition 13.
Not one that we have linked here.
Yeah, so www.sccassessor.org. They have an FAQ.
SCC assessor.
You can do a search for Proposition 13. Or maybe AB 48. What's that? AB 48. So the link that I'm looking at, another index PHP/FAQ, and this is understanding Proposition 13. So it might be.
If you scroll up, there's an icon on the right side that says understanding Prop 13.
Okay, right there to the right. Thank you. A little bit lower.
Oh,
Yeah, there we go. Thank you.
Yeah, this is
Yeah, if you, right, so that's the original one that talks about how the original Prop 13, how there's some confusion about this Proposition 13 because of where it is on the ballot being confused with this one. But if folks don't understand the original one, this is a great place to go in terms of understanding the base year values and why property values are different for different residents as they purchase their homes. I remember one of the reasons when we were doing the bond, what we looked forward to, the fact that we did have the new construction and that we had the rate per employee that they'd be paying, excuse me, per resident they would be paying. But as more residents came in, the price of the bond that they would be paying monthly would go down. So that was one of the things that we saw, that with the bond that was the Measure AA that was passed, that we knew as more residents came in, they will be reaping the benefits of the new construction, and the existing residents, the fees that they will be paying will be going down. And then, one more for me, if you don't mind.
Sure.
And it's on, EdSource.
Search drop.
Yeah. Or AB 48.
Looks like the top one.
The top one.
For better or worse.
Yeah. Scroll down. That's the one I looked at. No, I don't have that one. I guess, just to cut to the point, on it. They talked about why is Proposition 13 needed. So the state has traditionally shared the cost of construction with school districts, community colleges, and universities. Since 2002, voters have approved 4 bond measures totaling $45 billion. And it talks again about how the money will be spent. And just kind of circling back around to exactly what Kelly said, because there's so much information out there, and all of it's not clear, the resolution that we have as is does not confirm how things are going to move forward. So I think that this does deserve us to be able to spend a bit more time on it.
The next board meeting is March 10th, which is after the March 3rd, 2020. And so I don't know if what the outcome of this ballot measure will be. It could very well be a moot point by then. So I would suggest that if you're unsure, there's nothing that says you have to approve it. It's only a request by CSBA to take a look at it. And certain that CSBA represents, was it 1,000 school boards across the state, that they'll find what it is that they need. And as the school board in Milpitas Unified, it's important that you feel strongly and comfortably with what you do. So if you're not certain of it, I would recommend that we just move on.
So do you want to vote on it, or just forget it?
Well, earlier I made a motion that we don't take any action on it.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table. Okay, with that, I'll second that motion, that we take no action.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Let's move on then. consent items. Consent items are considered routine and will be acted upon by the board in one motion. There is no discussion on these items prior to the motion unless members of the board, staff will public request to the specific items be tabled or removed for discussion or correction. Do we have any items that we want to remove or table?
I do not at this time.
All right, do I have a motion to approve the consent items?
I motion that we approve the consent items.
Is there a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, consent items are approved. Board communications, well, we'll start with Timothy. The reports.
So there was a leadership conference the first week of February. ATOD, alcohol, tobacco, and drugs. ATOD teaches students about peer-to-peer support. In addition, teachers are being trained for other effective ways to get students engaged, like what they call a restorative circle, where we sit in a circle and do a fun activity, usually to keep students engaged. That's how I met a few friends at school. Kilograms are on sale, $2 each or 2 for $3.
Is that something that we can purchase?
I believe so, yeah.
All right. And they're on sale this week.
How do we get the tickets?
Candy games at Candy Grams at Cal Hills.
Okay. Scott, Kush has a report and he asked you to present it for him.
Yeah, Kush Brownbody couldn't be here today, but he was courteous enough to send me his report that he wanted me to read tonight. Let's see what he's got here. Number one, Childhood Cancer Awareness Day is on Thursday, February 13th. We are encouraging the whole school to come dressed in gold, and he's a student at Milpitas High School. There will also be a ribbon-making lunchtime activity surrounding that. And number two, Milpitas High School had their multicultural rally last Friday. So far, they have received only positive feedback, and Kush will be making a highlight video soon for the district. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Kush. Kelly.
Since the last board meeting, I attended the Burnett Bulldog Bash, the Rotary International Expo, Flame Keepers Black History Month celebration, Milpitas High School Legendary Football State Championship Parade, Russell School Site Council meeting. We also did a tour of Campbell and Moscato schools to view their Gen 7 and Folia buildings. I think that's it. And I want to wish my daughter a 11th birthday. Happy birthday, Krista.
Happy
birthday.
Vice President Norwood.
MCEE, Milpitas beat MUSD Culinary Community event at San Jose City College. I was able to attend Milpitas High School soccer game where they are selling their fundraising with the boosters with these fantastic scarves. If you don't have one, you definitely got to get one. I also attended the Rancho Russell Middle School boys basketball game at Milpitas High School. Flame Keepers Black History Month breakfast. As Kelly has stated, the legendary Milpitas High School football parade. And then that evening, I attended the Milpitas High School football banquet. I accepted an award on behalf of the Milpitas Economic Development Council, Milpitas Economic Development Commission Committee. I attended the Milpitas Council meeting for the Manufacturing Day Award. I stopped by the Santa Clara County Health Department to get more information about the coronavirus. Attended the Milpitas Elementary Olympics meeting, which is upcoming in May. I sat in on the Milpitas Adult Education Student Council meeting last week. Attended briefly with the superintendent as well as Madam President Holly Ann, the MUSD Parcel Tax meeting, board agenda review with Superintendent Jordan, Board President Holly Ann, met with folks over at Stanford University in terms of the Gandhi King Exploration Committee research, toured the Gen 7 polio facilities, participated as a mentor for the Stanford Workforce BDC Public Policy, attended the Milpitas Economic Development Committee meeting last night, and also met with the Milpitas Children's Theater Alliance about creating a partnership with the Milpitas Unified School District.
Thank you. All right, for myself, I attended the Russell School Site Council meeting, the partial tax. I also toured the schools to see the Gen 7 Aerophobia and attended the trophy. I think you forgot that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right, the craft league.
That was a lot of fun.
And the craft league.
All right, dates for the future meeting. We have March 10th, study session at 5, closed session at 6, and 7 for the open session. March 24th, study session at 5, closed session at 6, open session at 7. April 28th, study session at 5, closed session at 6, and open session 7. All these 3 meetings are here in this boardroom. Yes. Announcements and reminders. Superintendent Jordan.
I have an announcement. I would like everybody to know about January 24th. It was a phenomenal morning of professional learning, and it was something that over 30 staff members through the course of about 8 different meetings after school and after work hours came and discussed how we could ensure that every single one of our team members participated in a learning experience where we discussed our membership in society, membership in community, cultural sustainability, implicit bias, and ensuring that instruction is integrated with the histories, celebrations, accomplishments, and challenges of cultures of our students and our learners. And it was successful because for the first time ever in my 30 years that I've been here, every employee met at Milpitas High School for that morning, and we all learned together. And at the end of the morning, which was around 11:15, afterwards, as people were coming out of their learning sessions in the classrooms where everybody had the same topics to learn and discuss, I asked different members what their thoughts were, and in particular, what stands out for me is I went and I asked 3 of our grounds people from MOT, Maintenance, Operation, and Transportation, what their thoughts were, and they greatly appreciated it because, as one said, everybody had a voice and everybody had an opportunity to learn together, and that he thought it was the most valuable learning experience he had ever had. And at the end of the session, every employee made 3 commitments. One is to be an upstander, which means you recognize when somebody is saying something that's devaluing or insensitive or biased, and if you can't do it on your own, then you seek help. The other is to actively look for ways that we can embed our instruction with culturally sustaining materials. And the third is to be open and to become more self-aware of our biases, because every one of us has them, and it's important that we bring them to our consciousness so that we can be assured that we have less we are less likely to not to do an action that would not be culturally sustaining. So I'm very proud of that, and it's just the beginning of ongoing learning together, and I hope that we will do this at least twice a year with a lot of many opportunities in between.
Thank you. Do we have any others on the right?
Yes, just in case you missed, the other craft feed, Milpitas Chamber of Commerce is also having the 27th annual auction and craft feed, and a portion of the proceeds will benefit the Spring Valley volunteer firefighter. And it's gonna be, Friday, March 6th. I'm sure I can hook you up with early bird, specials, even though it's already passed. You can come see me. Thank you.
Any announcements? Yeah. Any other announcements on the left? This concludes our open session. The board will go back to closed session right after this. Thank you very, very much for staying until the very end.
Thank you, everybody.
Right around the corner. Oh, you've been holding?
I know because I came out of